Picture this, a listener is scrolling through the music charts and they've found your song, they're about to hit play. What's the first thing they're going to listen to? It's going to be the intro, right? So for this reason, the intro actually has a lot of weight and importance. So today I'm going to show you 5 or so important intro concepts and hopefully to help you out. So let's jump in. So what are we actually trying to achieve with our intros? First of all, you don't have to blow anyone away with your intro. We're not trying to make this amazing, exciting thing. In fact, it shouldn't be the most exciting point of your song. We want to save that to later on. The main goal of the intro is to make it intriguing enough for the listener to actually listen to the song. Even if they were to listen to the intro and then skip to halfway through the song, I would call that a success. So what we're trying to do is incite some sort of intrigue in the listener. That's our goal here. Make some interest, get them to listen, simple as that. Also, the actual type of intro, the structure and things like this, they're going to change dramatically depending on the genre that you're making, so this is something to keep in mind as well. The first one I want to mention is the intro should establish some sort of character of your track. So if you're a student and you've sent me your track, I'm listening to your intro, I want to know in the first couple of seconds some sort of characteristic about what style of track I'm listening to. Now this doesn't have to be the genre, I'm just talking about some sort of characteristic. So is the track dark? Is it ambient? Could it be a modern track? Or are you trying to go for some sort of warm vintage style track? Think about this, if someone's scrolling past and they listen to the first couple of seconds of your track, they listen to it and they don't really like the character of it and they skip past it, that's totally fine. But if someone clicks play and straight away there's some sort of character that connects with them and accurately depicts the track, then they're actually going to be interested to listen to the rest of the song. So this one is a little house track that I made a while ago now, and I'm just going to play this little section and we're going to talk about some of the characteristics of it. So I would say some of the core characteristics of this track is sort of like that gritty metallic feel. And if I listen back into maybe the drums in here, so the sample selection, I think particularly the clap here, sounds very metallic. So in my opinion, sort of the clap is providing a lot of that character. So if I go to the intro here, I can just lead off with just drums and I'm providing a little bit of information into the character of what this track is going to be like. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of tracks here and I'm going to be using these ones as examples. So I'm going to hit play on some of these and talk about the characteristics that they're describing in the first couple of seconds. So let's have a listen to this one. So straight away, I'm hearing really modern sound design. So this is telling me that this is a modern style breakbeat track. Simple as that, right? If I compare this to something like this, the sample selection, the swung drums is telling me that it's going to be like a vintage style house beat. So I really wanted to bring up this point just to emphasize that the first couple of seconds of your track really do emphasize a lot about the characteristics of what it's going to sound like. The next thing I wanted to talk about is creating some sort of expectation or tension. We need to have some sort of elements that are providing some sort of directionality in our intro. So maybe that could be in the drums, things building up in the drums, or maybe that's in the synths, some synths coming in slowly, or even automation. In doing this, this is kind of linked to creating tension as well. The intro is a perfect point to create some tension, to manipulate our track, to give ourselves a little bit of release when the first drop comes in. So creating a little bit of tension in the intro is going to give our focus point or our first drop a whole bunch more impact when it actually does come in. So this section here is our drop. I could cut that and recolor it. So this is like our drop and this is our intro here. And all throughout here, I'm slowly building the ambience and the pads in the background to create some tension. So let's have a listen here. The pad starts off really low here and it builds up. Let's have a listen. And in here, you can hear that the pads are really starting to build. And that tension being built in the intro, what that does is it allows us to create a whole bunch of contrast going into the next section because I can take all of those elements away. So let's have a listen to those wide pads here and specifically how I've taken it away at the drop. The other side of things is that sometimes it's hard to introduce our main or core idea without actually creating a little bit of expectation, priming the listener to expect what they are about to hear without giving it away too much. So I've actually just pulled up this project because I thought it'd be a little bit easier to explain. You can see that this is our first drop here. This is where all the bass lines come in and stuff like this. I've introduced this little teaser bass line in here, and I've used a filter on my bass group to filter out the low end. So we're giving some sort of expectation. We're saying this is what the bass line is going to sound like, but we're taking out the low end so we're not giving too much away. So let's have a little listen to this bass line as it comes in. So that's both giving a little bit of expectation and also building some tension into the drop. And this is a really common technique. For example, I've got this track here, and this is another idea of building a little bit of expectation and introducing the idea before it happens so that the transition is a little bit smoother. So let's just have a listen to this. We've got some drums here, and then it goes into this little mini breakdown before this first drop. So So just to wrap up that point for you, the intro is a good spot to create tension if your song is asking for it, but also interplaying that with a little bit of expectation, perhaps teasing the bass line or teasing a main hook before it comes in. If you're enjoying learning about the concepts of how intros work in this video, then you might also enjoy the music production handbook. I've left a link to it in the description below. It's just a free PDF that goes through a whole bunch of questions related to music production topics and answers to those questions. So if you're interested, I left a link in the description below. You can go grab that one for free. Number 3 here is we don't want to give too much away, and that's because we want to maintain and keep our most interesting idea for the main section of the track. So we want to start to tease things in the intro, but we don't want to give too much away. You may have experienced this before. If you do too much in the intro, it's really easy to get lost and get stuck because then it's hard to progress from that point. So I always like to work backwards with my intros and sort of start with an idea, or at least know where I'm going to go, and then just start off by adding a few elements that sort of support that thing and slowly build up towards that main idea. So let's have a listen of this track here. I think this is a really good example for not giving too much away and slowly introducing their elements. So let's have a little listen here. It's a very sort of atmospheric, textural start to the track. And so here they've just started to introduce this sort of rhythmic bass line in here. And you can hear those percussion-y things are starting to slowly come in, so we're getting a sense of rhythm there as well. Everything we're hearing is more or less just teasing the rhythm that's about to come in. So this is a really cool example of that. And then we have that kick drum start to come in and our other percussion elements start to become more prevalent. And then the rhythm comes in and the track is established. So this point is a pretty self-explanatory one, but it's an important one nonetheless. These last two are more so like techniques rather than concepts. And this one is think about how you can use space and width in your intros. We've already more or less mentioned this, but I wanted to show you this track, which is a different example of this. Producer is Jocko, and check out how he's used space and reverb and building up that reverb. He's filling out the space with that reverb automation, and then it strips back and it's really clean. So let's have a listen to this little section in here. So I wanted to bring this point up as something that you can try out when you're thinking about making your intros. So this one is more of a technique to help you with introducing your ideas. Space can be really useful for that. And when I'm talking about space, I'm talking about things like reverb, atmosphere, things like that. Background elements are perfect for intros. So I have this little idea here, right? And I've got some drums that are sort of introducing it. I've also got this like these main two elements in here. They're introducing the song, right? But my intro still sounds a little bit dry. It sounds like it's missing something. And in my opinion, it's sort of missing that environment, that space in there. So I'm going to look for the things that are providing that spatial atmosphere. And I'm going to try and put them in my intro. So let's have a listen to this drums group in here. So we've got this sort of like background echoing thing. I think that could work really well in my intro. So maybe I'm going to copy that and go over here and paste that and duplicate that over a few times. So we have a bit of that background echoing. And then we also have this atmosphere group, which has a few different sort of samples that are going back and forth, creating this sort of sound. And so I'm going to put all of these atmospheric things into my intro, and they really help set the scene, right? So now with those things in there, I think that sounds much better. So in the intro, remember to think about the atmospheric things and the space of your track. The last point here is just to understand the utility of your intro. For example, if the utility of your intro is to maintain attention, if that's your main purpose, your main goal, then maybe you want to introduce a hooky element right at the start, and maybe you want to make that intro a whole bunch shorter so it's easier to get them over the line into that main interesting section, right? On the other hand, if you're making a club track that's specified to be played by DJs, they're going to need to mix that track in with their set. So putting some drums at the beginning can be a really good idea to help with that. So in this case, the utility of the intro is to make it really playable for DJs. So the last point here is just thinking about how we can shape our intro to leverage the medium in which it's going to be played on and where it's going to be played as well. So a bit of a different format video today. If you've enjoyed, let me know in the comments below. If you didn't enjoy, you can let me know as well. I hope you've learned a few concepts about how we can make intros a little bit more interesting. And if you've enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.